Yes. There. I mean, if you saw from the title of tonight's stream, it's Night the Movies Part Two.
Guess I'll go to the lobby.
Yeah, yeah. But unlike Endgame, unlike Avengers Endgame, this will not run 3 hours, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about bathroom breaks. Although
Hopefully
I
not. Maybe
will.
I'll need a bathroom break.
What?
Hopefully we don't need a bathroom break.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I did see it over the weekend. It was a really good movie. I do recommend it, and and just to uh, give a quick word, I think it was a very satisfying conclusion to for some of the characters, and as well as this chapter of the MCU. Especially if you were a Marvel fan since like the very first Iron Man movie, then this is a very
was.
satisfying this is a very satisfying conclusion uh, for just like the actors who are now no longer contractually obligated and can go on to new projects and things like that.
Yeah, I have not seen it just yet. I've actually been rewatching all of them, so I can be really invested
Hmm.
in Endgame and be caught up with the story. I mean, I've seen all of them but Captain Marvel, and I'm still
Hmm.
debating whether I'm gonna do that. Um,
If I'm to be honest, it's a lot of people, or I think Disney was trying to make it seem like it was important for you to watch it before you watched Endgame, but it's really
yeah,
not. It's really not.
it doesn't add, does it, even a slight nugget. There's nothing like slightly in there that like might kind of like add extra light to the story or add anything to
Not
it.
even a little bit.
Okay, good. Because I
Not
don't
not
really like. I'll be honest. If I had to be honest, like I don't really like Brie Larson, so
agreed. It was funny because um, one of my friends that I went to go watch Endgame with, um, he kept he kept fixating on this one part about Captain Marvel, and I don't know if it's so much of a
spoiler.
I don't know if it's so much of a spoiler. I mean, for anyone else, just kind of mute this for a quick second. Uh, well, okay, and so my friend, like the hang up that he was having with Captain Marvel was that like in the beginning of Captain Marvel, uh, the character Captain Marvel, when flying through space, had to have an oxygen like mask, and there is an oxygen mask, that's incorporated into her suit, and she's had to use the oxygen mask every time that she had to be out in space. But but at the end when she goes full like Super Saiyan and take destroys all the bad guys single handedly. Uh, she did have her mask on in space when she was killing the bad guys, but at the very very end, when she takes off for deep space, she doesn't have her oxygen helmet on, even though she's in space. And so my friend was constantly harping on that little inconsistency, and what the hell is going on? This makes no sense. How could she need the oxygen mask in the beginning and like in the end fight scene, but then at the very end she doesn't need the oxygen mask? What the hell is that about? And I was just telling him, it's like, hey, dude, just calm down. And I try to reason as much as possible with him, saying like, oh, maybe now that she has full access to her powers, now that she got her Super Saiyan aura around her, she doesn't need the oxygen mask anymore. But he was again, but he was like still spiraling, and so I finally said to him, "Hey, man, just don't get you're getting bent out of shape for one flaw in a very flawed character. So you shouldn't let this bother you so much." And then he's like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
Well, this is our current day mythology. That's why we care so much.
Right? Yeah. I mean, the MCU is this generation's Star Wars.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it's not I don't think it's hyperbole to say that kids are gonna get their morals from a lot of kids, their whole morality is gonna be shaped from these movies, like from Captain America, or their or from Iron Man, or from Hawkeye, or the Hulk, or whatever. These kids are gonna their entire worldview is going to be shaped by these movies.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either,
No, no, nor do I.
because if you really think about it, a lot of like these characters have pretty decent morals and are setting up for goodness.
hmm Right. I think I
Like
would say that
they're
Captain
flawed.
America has the most consistent morals in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing too is that some of these characters, yeah, while they've had checkered past, or they have, or they're flawed, they are still at least trying to fight for good. Yeah, Captain America has probably been the most consistent, where he's kind of the Boy Scout of the group, kind of like how Superman is in the DC universe. But the but even he goes through a lot of moral challenges that challenge his belief system and what he believes he's fighting for.
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah. I would say his morals are consistent, but his outlook evolves throughout the MCU. Because in the first Avenger, he's literally a propaganda tool to sell war bonds.
yep.
And then the second one, he begins to question authority. Because before, he was a soldier, and he followed orders. But now that he's no longer in a strictly military um, organ or institution, he's now a part of a paramilitary intelligence organization like Shield. And so,
Yeah.
it's no longer black and white. And even though he desperately wants it to be black and white, he's finding himself more in a world of gray. And then in Civil War, he decides that he's no longer going to be a part of any institutions, and you know he just wants freedom, and and responsibility uh, to lie with the individual. And I think that was the whole point of his motivations in that movie. With it, at least in his opposition to the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah, he's a conservative that doesn't want some faceless world bureaucracy to hold him down.
Right, exactly. I think he states it perfectly when he was saying, when him and Tony Stark were arguing. It's like, oh, what if there's a place that we need to go, but they won't let us, and what if there's a place that they tell us to go, but we don't think we should be going.
Right. And it's and see what makes that such a good film, like why I like that and why I think it's a great interaction with all those characters is through traveling with all of them throughout all the films in the connected universe. You see how Tony Stark, he's this very brash, kind of looking always to create like the newest like weapon and to make himself better and stronger. And you see like it takes a toll on him as a character to the point where like he realizes that there's no why he makes the decision that he does. um and then you see how like Captain America, as we've been talking about, that he goes from just kind of the the good guy soldier, follows orders, doesn't really ask a lot of questions, and he's put in a situation. It's like, wait a second, stuff doesn't add up to him. And you see that shift heavily in the Winter Soldier movie, where he sees how his government kind of betrays him, and he sees all the secrets that are kept, and it's like, wait, this isn't right, and this goes against like what I fought for, what I stood for. um and yeah, you see all the shift in like all the characters in that way, and it's just it's I haven't watched Endgame yet, but catching up and watching all the films, so I'm more invested in Endgame, where I'm all kind of caught up like in my head, and seeing them all at once, it's yeah, it's something else. I actually appreciate the movies even more than I did when I first watched them.
Right. Yeah. Just quickly adding. Yeah, because for at least Tony Stark's character and character arc, he starts off at this very as this very kind of selfish, anti-establishment character, but by Civil War he becomes someone. He becomes somewhat of an establishment goon. You
Yeah,
know,
he does. He kind of does. He
and so
realizes at the end that he's wrong, but it's kind of
right, or like because like he exactly because he might still feel that there needs to be um, that that the groups like the Avengers or something might need oversight. Um,
I
it'd
think
be
a lot of it
best.
comes from the guilt that he feels for kind of giving birth to Ultron, which killed a lot of people. I
Well,
think
I
that's
think
why he
for
ends up.
Tony Stark though, his whole character is about guilt and the pain that he himself has caused. Because first, as a weapons manufacturer, and then of course on to Ultron, creating Ultron, and then also just being, or I mean, kind of backtracking a little bit. What is it? Or just being like or well, I can't think of. I know there's three instances of guilt, but I can't think of that
Well,
third one.
oh,
But
then
those,
you'd have to look at Iron Man 3, where he allowed, because of his actions, Pepper ends up getting
oh yeah, the
kidnapped
extremis. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was. Yeah.
and
So
dealing with
yeah.
the Avengers.
So his, I think one of the ways Tony Stark could be characterized is a man riddled with guilt for the actions
Absolutely.
that he has done. And I think his support of the Sokovia Accords was a way for him to kind of a way for him to not maybe to take personal responsibility, but have someone take responsibility for him. So he does it. So
Which
someone to make sure he doesn't do anything to cause himself to have more guilt.
which is talked about in Civil War, where it's like you're not it's so what, you're just doing this to like alleviate guilt and like the putting the the responsibility onto somebody else.
Right, shifting
It's
the
like
blame. So if something goes
instead
wrong,
of
then you can say, oh well, the UN sent us, so it's your fault. So it's the UN's fault,
yeah,
as
and
opposed
it's
to like, me, like, oh, we went there, these things happened, that's on us. Our bad. We'll endeavor to make it right. So yeah, I think Tony Stark is a character that's riddled, or that's cursed with guilt.
yeah, and I tend to, well, for me, like my of the comic book characters that I like, I tend to like smartass characters. So like
Mm-hmm.
I like Tony Stark, I like Peter Parker. I like well, Batman's not really a smartass, but like he's kind of a he's a tough
The
guy.
Kevin Conroy Batman is.
Yeah, that's well, and
Yeah, the Batman,
that is
the
my Batman.
animated series Batman was a bit of a wise ass,
Yeah,
especially in later iterations like in Justice League or Justice League Unlimited. He was such a smart
yeah,
ass.
and Kevin Conroy is my
Yeah,
Batman.
right.
So yeah,
Like the voice that I hear like for Batman, is Kevin Conroy. Now and forever,
when
no
I
one
hear
will ever say that. I mean, I will admit, Bruce Greenwood and Jason O'Mara do pretty good jobs, but because it's from my childhood, Kevin Conroy will forever be Batman.
and that's why actually I love the Batman video games on PlayStation, because it's the
Oh, Kevin
animated
Conroy,
series
yeah,
characters that do it, and
I
the
know.
games are fantastic. Oh man. But anyways,
So,
what I'm saying is I like kind of like those smart ass characters, but I think re-going through this again, I actually have a lot more.
oh, did we lose him? Oh, okay, you're back. Okay.
No, I was saying that I after going through all these films, and I'm not fully caught up,
Uh huh.
but I actually have a lot more appreciation for Captain America.
Oh yeah. No, I
Um,
mean, I've always loved Captain America. Even before the MCU, I've always loved Captain America.
well, that's true. Like I think he was one of my favorite characters to use in Marvel versus Capcom, the fighting game.
Oh yeah, like
Um,
after he beats someone, he goes thumbs up, soldier.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I
But
think
no,
I identified more with Captain America because you kind of like how in Avengers Tony Stark says everything special about you came from a bottle, because he wasn't someone who was gifted with like special abilities or an incredible intellect. He was just someone who basically was instilled with really good morals
well,
and
and that's what. Sorry, you finish up what you're saying, Andy.
yeah, yeah, he was someone who was instilled with good morals, and he was a weakling, and he was chosen for this experiment because of his weakness. Um, and I think I mean, in the MCU, it's it kind of goes a little bit deeper, and the Doctor Abraham Erskine, he kind of sees he sees the qualities that he wants someone that takes this serum to have before they have that power. And I think it's exemplified in that scene in first Avenger when you know uh, when there's like a line when there's a line of potential soldiers, and Tommy Lee Jones's character, he's like saying like, oh, what about this guy? He's big, he's strong, he follows orders. And then the doctor's like, well, he's a bully. He's known power. He's known strength all his life. He's not going to respect it. But because because the character of Steve Rogers has never known power, but yet still has like stood up to it. That's what's going to make him a good soldier.
Yeah, well, and that line that Tony tells Captain Rogers is that it's like everything special about you came out of a bottle. Well, that's actually not true. Sure, his powers came from that, but what makes him special is his heart and like what his good morals, and that the fact that he fights for justice.
Right. He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't fight for himself. Because even like in the first Avenger, like he never fights a battle for himself. He's always fighting on behalf of others. Even before he gets the super soldier serum, in the movie theater when there's like that kind of like brash guy who's during like the
The
newsreel
newsreel, yeah.
newsreel part of the movie. He's like, oh, come on, hurry up. Like, where's the cartoon? And, he's like trying to he's trying to get him to, show some respect and keep down. And then, the guy just keeps piping on. It's like, just get on with it. And then, he finally says, like, shut up. And then, the bully stands up and he goes out and fights him. He doesn't like shrink back in his, back in his chair. He goes out to meet um, the the bully, not because for his own sake or for his own honor or for his own glory. He does it on behalf because he was the only one to speak up against this guy. So the Captain America is someone who does, or Steve Rogers is someone who doesn't just fight for himself. He fights for others.
Yeah. And so I think I've definitely appreciated him more as a character. I don't know if he's quite become my favorite, but I definitely like him a lot more than I did when I first started watching all these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say probably I like the Guardians of the Galaxy. I love Peter Quill. I just,
Oh yeah.
like I said, I like those smart ass characters, and I think, but kind of the same thing. He fights for, well, yeah, he is kind of that roguish thief, but he still fights for goodness at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, it's funny because I really like the second one. And I
Yeah,
think in terms of story and like narrative, I think it was perfect. Because it was like Peter discovering like he had like this really cool he has his father who's like all powerful, but then but his biological father doesn't love him, and he kind of realizes then that his kind of surrogate or adopted father of Yandu was his actual father the whole time. And yeah, I think the payoff at the end was phenomenal.
yeah, like you learn a lot more about Peter as a character in that one, and really how awful his biological father really was, and kind of kind of pays the theme of what is your family
Mm-hmm.
is kind of is brought up in that. And I don't know, man, like I said, these aren't the greatest movies of all time. Like it's no Casablanca or Citizen Kane or um, Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of. It's not any of these type of films, but they have a lot of importance and they're pretty damn good.
It's funny that you say that because for this generation, you know, Winter Soldier could be their Casablanca, or Guardians of the Galaxy could be their Indiana Jones. So,
And maybe so, and maybe I changed my mind in 20 years
well,
looking
no,
back
I'm
and
not saying
say,
that you
you
have to
know
change
what?
your mind, but I'm just saying for like kids growing up nowadays, you know, this is the again, Winter Soldier could be their Citizen Kane, or Guardians of the Galaxy could be their Indiana Jones, or is their Indiana
That's
Jones,
very true.
and
But I'm
so
just saying, like, I may change my mind in 20 years, looking back and saying, maybe not all of the MCU,
right.
but I might, hey,
I'm just
what,
speaking in
Winter
relative
Soldier,
terms, though. I'm just speaking in relative
yeah.
terms.
But I might look back and say, hey, you know what, Winter Soldier was a really freaking good movie. Like,
Yeah. No, I mean, I still maintain that it should have been up for an Oscar for Best Picture.
that one definitely I
Yeah,
think more
yeah.
so
I
than Black
mean,
Panther.
yeah, nothing against Black Panther, but it did not deserve Best Picture.
No, no, I don't think so
Yeah,
either.
not even a
Not a bad
nod.
movie though.
Yeah,
Not a bad movie, but
yeah.
not like not Oscar worthy. Definitely not.
hmm But then again,
Well,
that's
I did
just
not
that's me.
think that we were gonna get into the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting. I think it doesn't deserve, it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. I think you know.
Well, I hear a lot of the oh yeah, it's like we're getting the superhero fatigue and all this stuff. It's like I don't know. I think Marvel has done. You say what you will about the all the movies that are coming out now, but I think Marvel, Disney, they've done a very good job of putting out on a consistent basis. By the way, like coming out like maybe what year, 2 years, like every
Yeah,
year or 2 years.
more or less every 2 years.
Yeah, and they're coming out with pretty damn good movies. And like the story's connected, so you're not like it's not just disjointed stories, but they all kind of tie in to a larger picture. Um, and like I said, like when you're watching it, every couple of years, you kind of maybe forget some of those pieces, but when you watch them all together, man, it's really good. How I mean, it's very connected in a good way. Um, so I actually appreciate them a lot more now than I did when they all first came out. Um, and some might say it's like, oh well, we're 30 years old. Why do we give a damn about comic book heroes and stuff? It's like, well, there's a lot more. There's a lot of complex morals and story ideas and things that I think are worthy to talk about.
Right. Yeah. I
I mean,
mean, like my
idolize
interest in it is because I grew up with it. I grew up with comics. I didn't buy. I wasn't one of those who bought them like serially. But every once in a while I'd pick up a copy and I'd read it. And I also grew up with the Marvel cartoons, X Men, Spider Man, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Hulk. You know, so it's something that I grew up with, and actually seeing it in theaters and seeing it at the quality that we've been enjoying for the last 11 years. It's just it's something that I never expected to happen, but it happened, and so it makes me really happy. But also, it's also telling really good stories. And if anything, if you guys know nothing else about me, is you should know that I really enjoy a good story.
Yeah. Hell, even like the Netflix original like Marvel shows were fucking fantastic too.
Absolutely, yeah. I know. I sometimes they don't get the credit that they deserve, but yeah, I mean those TV shows are part of they're part of the MCU.
Yeah, like Daredevil's awesome. The Punisher is fucking awesome.
hmm
John Barenthal I think is the best iteration of the Punisher I've ever seen.
Right. Although I watched a video essay about it, and they said someone who's like really into Punisher said that they did enjoy the Punisher TV show, but I think he was saying that the studio misstepped in that they turned the Punisher into Wolverine.
Well, they are kind
Kind
of
of
very
like,
similar characters in a way.
well, I mean, well, not according to this person who was like is like who's really into the character of Frank Castle, and who's, it's not that Frank Castle is like this kind of hesitant, like, or reluctant gunslinger. Frank, in the comic books, Frank Castle is like really a monster. He kills people because the origins of Punisher, like, he's a Vietnam vet, and he was kind of going through almost like a PTSD thing when he got back, and having problems reconnecting with his family, and then there was almost like he almost like missed the killing, not just like being not just being in battle, but he missed the killing, and and then when his family was murdered, he almost was happy about it because then it freed him up to go and kill. At least according to this video essayist. But just getting back to John Bernthal Punisher, I think he was fantastic. It was great. This last season was really slow. I'm not gonna lie. But
I thought it was great.
did you see the recent season?
Yeah, I finally finished it. I thought it was awesome. Like I thought it was actually it was pretty. I felt it was very well paced.
Really? Because I thought the first like maybe like 3 or 4 episodes were good, and then like maybe the last 3 or 4, but like the middle was kind of where it kind of lost me.
To me, I felt like I would it gave because there was a lot of very tense points in the show, and then there was times where it's like it gave you time to breathe a little bit because instead of just having it where it's constant action, and I felt like I needed those like points of like good breaks in like where it's like okay good I can breathe again. I and you kind of felt like that maybe with Frank too, where it's like he's constantly on the go. I gotta attack these guys, and it's like okay good I have like a chance to like breathe for a second, and you kind of feel a lot that along with Frank Castle.
Perhaps. I don't know.
And like I
Just
said,
for me, just for
I
me
might be in the
personally though,
mind.
I think if like they could have done without like the entire middle part of the season, and it still would have been okay.
Yeah, like I said, I might be in the minority in that, but
Mm.
and I think the other and possibly the other part of the problem is the whole thing going on with the dick waving contest with Disney and Netflix now with Disney
Oh yeah,
starting
yeah, yeah,
their
yeah.
streaming service. So
Well, yeah, because
there,
Disney is starting their own streaming service, and so Netflix is like motherfucker, and so like I mean they're not renewed. They didn't. I don't think they renewed any of the Marvel shows, and I mean they flat out canceled Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Um,
when I think Daredevil's was canceled now. I'm
mhm,
assuming the Punisher is too. Jessica
yeah,
Jones already has the next season ready to go, so I think that's coming out.
yeah. I think
And then
I think
I'm
this third is it the third? Yeah, the third season of Jessica Jones will like that'll be the last one that's on Netflix. And then after that, they're all canceled, which kind of sucks because they won't be able to. Disney won't be able to immediately use those characters again. There's like a contract thing where they're not
there's
allowed
a
to
2 year
use them for like
gap.
2 years.
So what I'm hoping is that Disney will maybe keep all those guys on, work on like filming a bunch of shit, and then when that contract is up, maybe they can um, use those characters again. Because I actually felt like they've started to fix Iron Fist and make that into it was starting to become really good.
Oh man, I
And
fucking hated the second season of Iron Fist. Oh, I hate how it concluded.
um, but like the rest of the shows I thought were great.
Yeah, I mean, Luke Cage wasn't as strong. Luke Cage wasn't as strong as like the first season, but I think it was still good. again, I hated the second season of Iron Fist, or what they were doing with like characters and stuff. It was just like, because it was almost like they're addressing all of the criticisms that like supposed fans were putting out, like, oh, why isn't Asian fit, why isn't the Iron Fist an Asian person? Well, let's make the Asian girlfriend the new Iron Fist, and like they made it like and they almost made him impotent in that like he couldn't control his powers during one of the seasons, and it's just like, god damn
Well,
it.
the other thing too that like they kind of I didn't really do either was so after the Defenders, Iron Fist was supposed to be taking up Daredevil's mantle, and then they never did
Right.
anything about that.
Right, and then like they just they made him have like problems with his powers, and then like they took the powers away from him and gave him to a brown person, and it's like, oh no, we can't have that. So then they took the powers back and gave it to a woman, and it's just like, oh god damn it.
Yeah,
It was
that
like
show was kind
that entire season was SJW hot potato.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but the rest of the shows I actually thought were pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's like,
Daredevil
oh
season
yeah,
3
another thing
was.
is like, why did fucking his girlfriend have to, teach him how to fight? I thought he was already a fucking kung fu master. Why the fuck did she need to teach him how to fight? Ah, Jesus. So I can get off this topic. Okay, let's get off this topic before I get really heated.
But
Let's
anyways,
get into our movie
overall,
reviews.
I was saying overall the MCU universe, whether it's the TV shows or the movies, overall has done a pretty fantastic job, I think.
Yes, MCU, top marks. Top marks.